Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is the Current Podcast. There are a lot of strange things transported by highway in Canada. Full houses on wheels, wind turbine blades longer than a duplex is tall. But coming soon along Newfoundland's Route 90 may be the strangest load ever. Trucks will soon haul decades-old fish sauce, the kind of sauce that's used for dipping and marinating in Asian cuisines. It is a condiment that many people in Newfoundland and Labrador have never even tried.
It's like while we use ketchup, they use this product.
Where those loads are headed, well, that is a story in and of itself. But even more intriguing, how the sauce came to be and why the mayor of a tiny town called St. Mary's will be standing by watching the trucks back away from his community, likely, he says, in tears. Our producer, Mary Catherine McIntosh, has been looking into this story. Here's her documentary, Fish Sauce.
St. Mary's is half the size it was when this story began. But when people leave, there's often a tug back to it.
Yeah, my son actually just started. He's going to build a house now. And he's 49-year-old. He said, Mother, he said, I think I'm going to start building my house now because he wants to be in here.
St. Mary's might be prettier than the prettiest place you've been.
It's lovely. It's nice and quiet here.
Picture a bench painted red on the edge of a grassy cliff looking out over an emerald bay. And just down the road, whales.
And I mean, the whales, you're sitting on the beach, the whales are just passing you just like they're like a dog walking on the beach. There's a whale passing by right in front of you. 20, 30 whales to probably 10 whales. It's unbelievable to see.
And the whales come right to the beach, and they dive, just like marine land. We can't even drive up and down the roads. I can't explain how many people come. We just kind of roll our eyes and say, oh, we're too used to it.
You're used to whales. Oh.
We're used to whales, yeah.
But St. Mary's has a big problem. And though it's invisible, it gets into everything. It's even made international news. Depending on the wind and the time of year, this place reeks.
Oh, my. Yeah. Right across from Sisters. Oh, my God, it'd be so bad.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 12. Especially with the school, the children, and it's awful. And you just put your head in around, smell, and knock you out.
It can actually knock you on your feet. Like, it's rotten fish. And it's not just a rotten fish. This is thousands of rotten capelin.
The smell is coming from an old fish sauce plant right in the center of town that hasn't operated in 25 years. The community's been fighting to have it cleaned up since.
I've never smelt a rotting corpse or nothing, don't get me wrong. I smelt the dead whale before. But this is major stink, major going through the town, right next to the school, the playground and everything. All these years and decades, it's time for it to be gone.
This terrible mess began as a brilliant idea. Back in the 80s, there was only a market for female capelin for a roe, so the male capelin were just dumped. A man named San No was the captain of a fisheries research ship and saw all the fish being wasted. He thought, what if male capelin could be used to make fish sauce, the kind that's used to flavor almost everything for millions of people every day in his homeland of Vietnam? It was an idea that the Canadian government liked well enough to fund.
Hello.
I'm sorry, Sylvester Yetman was the mayor of St. Mary's at the time. He heard Captain No was looking for a home for his new idea, and he reeled him into the town. Here's Sylvester on the first time he tasted fish sauce.
Don't remember hardly anything. Only had a sample of the fish sauce in an Escovy coffee crop. And I said, I want some of that. When I left them, I headed for a fish and chip store, Scampers on O'Leary Avenue in St. John's. I ordered my fish and chips, and I took out my Escovy coffee crop. Gee, I said, that's good, you know. Yeah.
Had you ever heard of fish sauce before?
No, I had never heard of fish sauce. Not on your life, no.
He says his biggest job now is to let people know there's a plant willing to take what's traditionally been a worthless species.
The grand opening of the plant was a very big deal.
A big operation. At its peak, this plant in St. Mary's will employ just 14 people. But it's an unusual operation.
In pictures of the opening day, there's a huge hand-drawn banner pinned to the plant that reads in red, "Welcome to the first fish sauce plant in North America. Thanks, Canada.
Oriental supermarkets in Toronto, Montreal, and California have already agreed to buy the product.
John Crosbie, the legendary federal cabinet minister from Newfoundland and Labrador, flew in by helicopter and posed for a photograph, smiling, holding a bottle of the sauce. It's a photo I see again, many miles from St. Mary's, in the most unlikely place. I'll tell you about that. But on this day in 1990, the opening of the plant, like its stench years later, made international news.
And there was a reporter from the BBC in London here. He was a Vietnamese reporter. He said to me, "This is the best fish sauce ever produced on the planet." Oh, I said, "Boy, is that right?"
But the plant smelled bad from the start. Here's Steve Ryan, St. Mary's current mayor.
All these small towns, we have it very difficult to push away a business no matter what. I even joke, I said, if they came back in 1990 here with a nuclear waste and they were asking the town council at the time, they'd probably bite on it too. Because, like I said, we don't have much industry in these small towns. We get excited. If there's any way to create employment, and it's definitely a win-win for a small town.
The plant wasn't a win for St. Mary's. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA, closed the plant after a bad inspection. And when the owner left town, he left behind giant tanks of fermenting fish and thousands of bottles of sauce. That's now so long ago that many people in town are foggy about how their problem began.
I don't know what's the contents inside. It was supposed to be made for a sauce.
Well, it was built by Dr. No, I think. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that one. And he up and left everything there, all them vats full of, fermenting stuff. And oh my God, it's awful.
It's like he left the people here in the community high and dry.
The capelin has now been fermenting in salt for about 30 years, and those tanks are leaky. Just imagine, the tanks are about 10 feet tall, and there are more than 100 of them.
This is never a nice spot to visit.
Steve Ryan and I are about to do something I never imagined when I first heard of the old stinky plant. Let's go in. We go right inside it.
Once you break inside the door, see the way it takes your breath. It's powerful.
I'm actually not breathing.
No, it's powerful. If you live to be 200, you'll never top a site or something smells as bad as this. You won't. I hope you don't. This is the covers that were put on top of the product, just floating. That's the covers there. The stuff on the floor came out of those tanks, and that's what's built up.
This is by far the grossest place I've ever been.
Don't go too far, you want your rubbers. Once you get past here, you'll probably fill your boots, and I don't want that. But you just come into here. You'll get that product there that's ready for market.
Boxes and boxes.
Yeah, boxes and boxes. That was, like I said, that was ready for market. They had it all done. You see their logo on the box. One of the companies came in that was interested in cleaning it up. He said, "There's no rodents here." And he said, "That's a bad sign, because with no rodents," they explained to me, they know the stuff is toxic. If not, this place will be infested. It's totally open on every side, but you'll never see a fly in her. You'll never see a rodent in her. The animals know better and not to come inside the site. And that end of the plant, if we could, I don't want you to...
Steve worked in this plant as a teenager briefly, but he's been working on getting it gone since becoming mayor. For the last 10 years, fish sauce has been on every single council meeting agenda. Not exaggerating, he's been begging the federal and provincial governments to help clean up. But a decade of meetings and letters and phone calls and news interviews, nothing worked. Many people have wondered how, in all those years, no one burned it down.
We're a small town, rural Newfoundland, on the Avalon that we're forgotten about. And it's kind of getting personal because the government is not listening, and why would any government, provincial or federal, want this in anybody's town I just don't understand it. I think there's more to it than we're not. This is the only explanation I can come up with. There's more to this than we really know, because there's no way that any federal government to come here and see what we have here and want this in anybody's town, in Newfoundland, in Canada, almost anywhere in the world. Like, I had the federal minister of environment say that this wasn't environmental. If you think this is not an environmental issue right here, what we're looking at, I challenge you to come here and look.
It definitely wouldn't happen up in Ottawa nowhere. We're so far away and we're only a small community. It's 300 people, Nobody knew how to handle it, and they were just passing it off to this one to this one. We couldn't get answers. The previous councils couldn't get answers, not just our council. The previous councils couldn't get answers. They were passing the buck to everyone, whether it was Liberal, PC, NDP. It didn't matter. It does not matter, because they didn't know how to handle it.
Yvonne Bishop lives just up the hill and a little over from the plant. She has 2 jobs, paid as the school bus driver and also a volunteer member of council with Steve Ryan.
And over there by this plant, we have what we call the first rocks and the second rocks and the third rocks. These are flat rocks that you can go and lie on, bathe on. There's generations behind me that never got to do that because of the smell from that plant.
It makes you angry because we haven't got the funding. It was government money to put it there. It was a lot of federal government money to put it there without any foolproof plan there to look after it. Like I said, the owner had these troubles. He'll tell you more of that story. But when he walked away, it was left on the town.
We'll be right back with more of the current podcast.
Years ago, during a particularly smelly stretch, the provincial government of Newfoundland and Labrador said they tried to find the owner, San No, but couldn't. They said Captain No left the country. As it turns out, San No is really easy to find.
Hi, good afternoon, San No.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And what San shares with me at his dining room table in Scarborough, Ontario, is not what you might be expecting.
No, I think because they say all the time, okay, the guy create a lot of problems, smell everything there, and he walk away. He don't know how bad I feel.
Remember that picture I mentioned of John Crosby holding a bottle of Atlantic seafood sauce? There's a copy of it blown up and framed on a living room shelf.
I'm cooking.
There's also a pan on the stove with salmon marinating in, would you believe, his fish sauce from the plant. In fact, San No has boxes of his fish sauce bottles in his garage.
I thought we still a lot of about 10,000 bottles like this in the plant.
San has gone through about 1 bottle a month for the last 25 years. He's now in his mid-80s, so he's got a life supply. San started mixing and testing sauce in a bucket in his basement. He landed big grants from the federal and provincial governments. He even had researchers from Dalhousie University helping him.
If the product goes sour, very, very strong smell, very terrible. Oh, yeah, it just smells okay, yeah. But for you, maybe it's too strong.
Along the way, San discovered that without the heat of the Vietnamese sun, the sauce would take years of fermentation in Canada, not months, to achieve the right color and smell and level of nitrogen desirable for a quality sauce.
The longer we keep, the better product we have.
San eventually built the plant in St. Mary's mostly on government money and traveled back and forth with his wife in a Dodge Ram loaded down with bottles of sauce across America peddling his product. He went to Asian grocery stores and Vietnamese restaurants.
Nebraska, everywhere. Yeah, and start to develop the market.
But there were problems with the government all along. And then in 2001, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA, inspected his plant and noted issues with the tank covers, with dirt, with flies, and mold in the plant. They detained his products, closed the plant, and charged him. San says no one understood what he was doing, fermenting fish. They'd never seen it before, and there were no rules for it. San says at the time, he had orders from as far away as Australia.
He come to my plant for the inspection. The first thing he asked me, how long is the fish sauce been there? I say maybe 5-6 years. He say too old, should be done. And based on that conclusion, he said, close down. I tried to tell them like that, but how come they do not listen? The guy here, they do not listen because they do not have knowledge.
To inspectors, the place was dirty. But a provincial judge found that inspectors failed to show how the problems they found would contaminate the sauce. They took no samples of it. The judge also challenged the inspector's definition of unsanitary. SAN won, but CFIA appealed the decision, and SAN won again. By the end of it, it was 7 years later, and as product, all of those tanks of fermenting fish and bottles of sauce we saw back in the old plant were sitting there all that time. SAN says if he had been making wine, they'd never have wanted him to dump it.
The wine on the same principle with the fish sauce. If you go to the wine manufacturer and the wine, the owner offer you a bottle of wine to say, the wine 20 years under fermentation, that's a very good wine. How come we dump? The same thing with the fish sauce.
Back in St. Mary's, something really bad has happened.
When the word got out that the plant was on fire, all I was saying, I hope it's the sauce plant. I hope it's the sauce plant. But when I rounded the corner and I see the flame call, I said, no, it's not the sauce plant. It's the plant that we depend on.
In November, the town's fish plant, its biggest employer by far, burned down. It was in the same parking lot as the sauce plant, which was not even touched by the fire.
This time last year where we're standing right now, we wouldn't be able to stand here. This parking lot would have 200 cars. There'd be 50 tractor trailers here. There'd be boats tied up to the wharf. Now the day is just empty. Just you and me.
300 people worked at the fish plant, and without it, Steve Ryan is the biggest boss in town. He has 8 employees at his grocery store.
It was the worst day for our town to lose this plant. Part of our life here, is part of our everyday doing, and it's part of our history. Even my parents worked there for 30 years.
The sauce plant's days do appear to be numbered. However, a few months after the fish plant burned down, another storm ripped through St. Mary's and took the front off the sauce plant, exposed its innards, and set in motion a $1 million provincially funded cleanup plan.
I would say God works in mysterious ways. He definitely worked that night in a mysterious way because, like I said, when the wall blew, when I went there, I said first, oh God, I said, now we're in trouble. And it was just like I said, just like a light bulb went on, I said, we got something. That's what I said. I said, I think we got it.
Sando still thinks of the sauce in his old plant, but he tries not to. At his place, we do a second thing I never dreamed I would. Together, we eat it.
So good.
Dip his wife's homemade spring rolls into little bowls of the sauce mixed with vinegar, warm water, onions, and sugar. In between bites, San says he's had to get used to letting go. Things dearest to him have been out of reach before. He was a Navy captain in Vietnam, and in the war he fled on one of his Navy ships while being shot at. His 3rd child was born when they finally reached the U.S., in a refugee camp in Pennsylvania.
The biggest loss is when we left the country. And everything in the house still there. Everything is there. We cannot touch it. My father, her father died. We cannot go back. My mother died. We cannot go back.
When the family moved to Montreal, San bussed tables at the Holiday Inn wearing a white uniform, the same color as the one he wore as captain. And for years he studied his way back to the sea, eventually becoming a master mariner and landing a job in charge of that fisheries ship, where he first saw all those capelin being tossed. But letting go is so hard. The strangest thing happens. San finds a letter he has never seen before from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency dated 2009 after he won the appeal. It says his product, about 150 tanks and 30,000 bottles, has been released from detention.
Here from the inspector, they release everything. I'm very surprised. If I know that, I start to reopen again. But now it's too late now, you see. But I don't know why.
So how did you have it now, if you didn't get it then?
No. Because this morning I tried to prepare everything for you, and I found this in here.
And you didn't know you had it?
I found this morning. That's the reason. I don't know why. If I found this problem before, maybe I can reopen.
Would you start whenever?
Yeah.
I'm Hung No. I'm son of San No.
This is Hung No, that baby who was born in that refugee camp. He's now an engineer in Boston.
There was so much potential here. He had poured so much effort in over multiple decades. It became his life. It became a lot of our family's life. And just at that moment where we thought this was all going to kind of be successful, that's when it all went south. So yeah, he's probably got a lot of regrets, and I would imagine seeing that letter possibly not helpful even, in that it just brings up all these what could have been. Nowadays Vietnamese food, Asian cooking, all that kind of stuff is much more out in the mainstream. So maybe it wouldn't have been an issue now, but he was just as much abandoned in this situation as that town was.
In St. Mary's, you'll discover that a never-before-tried industry will result in a never-before-tried cleanup. The plan is to mix the capelin and salt from the tanks with peat moss to make a solid which is easier to move. An estimated 200 dump trucks full will be hauled hours up the highway, where they will line it and seal it like a Ziploc bag and then bury it in a landfill. Yvonne Bishop has plans for after that.
Oh my God. I am really hoping that I'm going to have a bonfire down there. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to go on that beach with family and friends, the community, and celebrate that this is gone. It is finally gone. And I'm going to tell you, there's not going to be a dry eye. I can remember the lady that lived in the 2-story house down there. Her name was Mrs. Frances Lee, and she passed away in her 90s, and they couldn't open a window or nothing for that woman down there when she was passing away in her house. So stuff like that, I don't forget.
It's going to be sad, because I put so much time into it. Definitely. I bleed this town. There's everything. I was born here. I get emotional because why do we have to go through this? We should never have to go through this. Never. It's going to be a big event. I can guarantee you that.
That documentary was produced by the CBC's Mary Catherine McIntosh, with help from Joan Weber at the CBC Audio Documentary Unit, and to this date, the federal government has not contributed any money toward the cleanup of that sauce plant. You've been listening to The Current Podcast. My name is Matt Galloway. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.